In the dead of winter of 1952, a tiny assemblage of individuals assembled to bid farewell to the man who had created everything on earth find humor. However, as one enters the cemetery, laughter was non-existent. Just one is unspoken loss for Jerome Howard, one offkey who was widely known as Curly. With his while the family bereaved, a solitary visitor showed up who had no place there. By simply being there, they the audience in a state of stunned silence because this individual embodied the depths of suffering which brought us to the present day. There was a solemn ceremony that took place at the location of East Los's Peace Cemetery City of Angels. For a Jewish man, it was a guy who had become famous for his comedic talent among the illustrious trio of Stooges, as well as his siblings Mo and SHMP, and Larry Fine, his comedic sidekick, stood by his side sorrowful hearts. They were laying to rest more thanko star. Nonetheless, the man who is their brother whose tragic demise occurred at the 48 years old. The dude has millions of admirers. Their loss was that of Curly. People in cartoon using an elevated voice and the infectious grin that could brighten anyone's day, a man-child who could withstand any challenge. He might get a slap in the face or jab in the eye, get your woo-woo-woo back on your head. However, a crowd had assembled at his gravesite that were aware of the facts. They had laid Jerome to rest. One such man was Lester Horwitz, whose twilight years distantly related to the happiness he'd given to other people. Oh no, his life was over, without humor, but rather accompanied by a string of catastrophic strokes that deprived him of his crippled, speechless, confined places like nursing homes and hospitals. The feelings of loss were pervasive. Hey there, Mo, the unyielding head honcho of the Stooges, only remained a broken-hearted older me brother. Larry, his devoted companion, had bereaved a partner he referred to as the greatest one who was a born comic. They were in the company of loved ones whose eyes had been glued to Curly's luminance waned and then vanished that eye in full detail. And while all this was going on, deep sorrow, one individual stood amid those people. This individual was totally unfriendly. They were not cherished relatives. In regards to the person who was privy to all the details, this visitor served as a tangible representation of Curly's catastrophic collapse. The moment they reached where he was laid to rest was a peaceful, outrageous deed that nobody could have predicted. This individual was who? Also, the reason were they there to mark the end of cruel prank played on a man's suffering, risked everything for the sake of humor? To feel for Curly's plight man's demise, you must comprehend who were around long before anyone else realized the individual's identity. His hairstyle was not innate. It was born in October, Jerome Lester Horwitz in September 22, 1903, in the Bronx, New York. It was number 5 in a family with 6 siblings. And because of such, his relatives bestowed upon him a moniker that would remain in his lifetime, my darling. In contrast to his younger 2 brothers, SHMP and Mo, who were frequently Babe was a shy kid who often got into trouble, that little one. His academic performance was lacking, yet he played a key role in the school's athletic success as the basketball squad. In addition, he possessed exceptional talent. Dancer renowned for his elegant performs, his routines at neighborhood dance clubs would occasionally encounter the upcoming film star George Raft. Being a young dude, attractive, and crowned with brown hair that is thick and wavy and a chic facial hair accessory. In contrast, a prolific and convenient time that would alter his life. The year he was 13 years old, a man of advanced years was wiping out a firearm when unintentionally set off Ahi's left ankle with a gunshot. The one he was closest to quick on his feet, Mo hurried him to the rescuing him from the hospital. The cut, although his left leg was clearly rendered him permanently limp and thinner, surgeons were considering repairing. However, Jerome was frightened of the procedure and declined. With that said, he'd carry that limp the rest of his life, a hidden anguish that he would subsequently master the art of concealment, an ingenious technique. After he shot to fame, he created his now iconic extravagant gato, conceal his limp as if it were any other an aspect of his eccentric personality. Hey there, Jerome looked up to his elder siblings, and when Mo and SHMP achieved triumph in variety show as a stand-up comic alongside some guy called Ted Healy. According to Jerome, linger in the wings, daydreaming about coming along with them. His opportunity arrived at last, when SHMP departed from the company in 1932, banned to go on a solo career. Mo was quick to propose that his child Babe, SHMP's brother, could step in. However, upon Jerome's arrival to the audition, upon laying eyes on the youthful man with the sophisticated mane and beard, and politely declined. In Healy's opinion, he really appeared to be far more than a stook. For what followed was a choice that would catapult Jerome to superstardom, but furthermore, sow the seeds for his eventual feeling down. Enthusiastic about landing the role, Jerome got up and left the room. Came back a few while after that, having chopped off his beard and all of the remaining single hair. At that very second, following his disappearance, Jerome Babe Horwitz, someone named Curly, came into this world. However, the cost of that change brought about profound unease. It would continue to trouble him throughout his days. His buzzed head was something he despised. It gave him a childish appearance and not appealing to females. The action itself that had catapulted him to fame also gave rise to injury to his sense of self-worth. That complete recovery. When it comes to Curly's new Stoog, the third stage of the band's career came crashing down. The boundless enthusiasm and extraordinarily gifted with ad-lib, he became beloved by fans immediately. The Aristocrats commenced work after signing with Columbia Pictures, shooting the short videos that could famous people. Yet despite the mirth amid the mayhem on screen, the wait was excruciating. On the dot of constant, a never-ending loop of filming and the exhausting touring, with Curly in particular. Throughout during their downtime from filming, for as long as 7 months, the Stooges would traveling all year long providing service members. The workload was heavy and exhausting. Curly was very rule-oriented in Missouri. The use of alcohol while on the clock or playing field. The day came to a close, though, and nightclubs were Curly's hangouts. He was consumed food and partied towel managed the extreme pressure and his personal fears that run deep. Being extravagant consumer who buys pricey items as well as for the ladies he was involved with never stops attempting to wow. He frequently, while they were about to declare bankruptcy, and intervened to oversee his financial affairs and even lend him a hand with his taxes, engaging in keep his younger siblings safe from harm impulses. His private life was similarly utterly random. Following an incestuous first marriage after being annulled, he wed a woman in 1937 with the name Elaine Aki. It was a daughter, Marilyn, and her husband. However, the marriage ended. After divorcing in the year 1940, and following this breakup, it was that a notable decline in Curly's health turned down. He began to amass a heap of acquired a dangerously high body mass index vital signs. In 1944, the bug had already beginning to appear on the screen. Audiences may be able to discern the existence of a problem. The limitless energy was beginning to diminish. He was formerly had a high, squeaky voice, transformed into more profound and untamed. Everything he did was at a slower pace, and he had difficulty recalling his lines. Curly was a lively, enthusiastic young man that diminishing to a mere reflection of his past self. The situation became so dire in January 1945 that he required hospitalization. As part of their care, the physicians provided a chilling prognosis: quite severe retinal hemorrhage, high blood pressure, which causes internal hemorrhage in the eyes, and excess body fat. He was in the process off down. After witnessing his brother's illness, Mo went to Columbia's top executive Harry Kahn Pictures and pleaded with him to let Curly relax for a while and back up, but Kahn was unmoved. The trio of incredible shorts from the Stooges highly lucrative, and the head of the studio would stop making anything regardless of the cause. Curly had no choice but to return to his job. In execution was sentenced by the decision. The platform that was propelling him to stardom weighs in addition to him. The decision-makers selected gains throughout his lifetime. Behind the scenes, in contrast to his portrayal, Howard performed in. No, he wasn't aggressive. Being a protector, he made sure his brothers were safe, most notably Babe, his youngest child. Looking at the health of Curly deteriorated following his hospitalized in 1945 caused Mo profound worried. Also, he witnessed his brother imbibing excessively, frivolously, and irresponsibly living a life that is both lonely and complicated. When Mo became firmly believed that Curly's concerns was feelings of isolation after his separation from Elaine. Deep down, Mo assumed that all it would take for Curly to find the one and finally settle down, his feeling better. In his mind, Marrying would provide Curly with an excuse to quit wasting time and focus on yourself on his own. A decision was made based on between love and despair. Seeing as how an older trying to rescue his younger sibling prevention of self-harm by a sibling. I am speaking a Bhutan unfortunate reality of Thea tale about the Stooges. On camera, Mo played the role of in charge of delivering the physical sanction for Curly, but in practice, the individual attempting to protect him was actually paying. While on tour at the end of 1945, Mo chose to facilitate matches. He was pairing Curly with Marion, a woman Buxbaum, whose family was involved in a local manager of a theater. As for Curly, he was famous in order to be too submissive to ladies and awful romantically inexperienced, love upon first sight. As a man, he yearned for human touch and was naively captured used by those who took advantage of his notoriety and kindness as a chance. What Mo observed this new connection as a sign of optimism as he pressed them closer. He hoped T-Sit would be a woman who would ultimately bring provision of security to his sibling's life. He was believed he was bestowing a support system. However, Mo was unaware that upon which he was going to execute the largest blunder of his entire life. He tried to rescue not only would Curly be unsuccessful, it would backfire in a devastating fashion all possible. A heartfelt act of kindness from a concerned about the impending release of a devastating hurricane that would wipe out everything survive Curly's precarious health to Mary's and Curly's connection with the speed of light. Buckbaum sped away. Following that, being acquainted for a mere 2 weeks, October 17, 1945 was the date of their wedding. Curly probably felt like a new beginning, yet wishful thinking soon fades become a living nightmare. The union was considered a complete bust by everyone involved at the outset. That was a brief, suffering through months of relentless disputes and venomous charges. They divorced on January 14, 1946, and Curly embarked on a formal divorce proceeding. What ensued was more like a somber farewell than a peaceful public display that is both untidy and humiliating. The divorce made headlines when it was announced, with newspapers in the area reporting on any scandal-specific information. An individual who was cherished by millions of people as a charming, naive protagonist began to drag itself through the muck in the general audience. As charges were leveled and subsequently savage back and forth in court, Marion depicted Curly in her painting as a terrible thing. Court transcripts indicate that she asserted that he made use of obscene, dirty, and filthy language, 2 aggressive canines. He was yelled at cafe waiters, shoved, hit me, kicked me, and then placed smokes on the table. The basin. Curly proceeded to share an anecdote of being taken advantage of and duped. He took their case to court, refusing to abide by my side. She was seeking 50% of the insulted me and everything in between. He went into depth about how, in just 2 weeks, hepredated their marriage. He knew her, gifted her lavishly, investing a luck be with her. A $3,750 washed over her. Luxury fur coat, a timepiece valued at $850. Ahe presented her with a Tiffany jewelry and hundreds for apparel. The case's judge observed all the way through Marion's narrative. His actions were the extent of openly labeling her as a gold digger, court, and even forbade her from returning to Los Angeles County. However, in spite of the judge's shirtful language, the harm has already been done. Within the concluded agreement, Marion Buxbaum departed with 50% of the total. Curly was the proud owner of, among other things, a pristine new home recently purchased for her. His only option was departure, devastated emotionally and financially broken. Many people's worries about the shame was unbearable. As a guy who was already precariously poised towel being, this harrowing ordeal was the last strike. His well-being, which gradually deteriorating for more than a year, started to collapse with a startling rapidity. The timeline can't be overlooked. The split and beginning of the unpleasant in January 1946, a divorce battle ensued. Only 4 months after that, in May, his physique fully collapsed. The explosive that Marion Bucks possessed did more than only steal his funds. She severed her soul, and she shattered his condition was irreparable. June 6, 1946. That day, everyone began to cease laughing for good. There were the Three Stooges working on set for Columbia Pictures' 97 then animated short titled Half-Wits Holiday. Quite a sorry state Curly was in. He had a lot off impaired, and his recollection was so bad that the majority of the credit for director Jules White sto Larry or remove them in full detail. Along with him, Mo had to stand subtly guiding him through scenes and accompanying him while he reads his lines. Everyone working on the set could see that he was an incredibly ill man. As the crew prepared to begin the day comes to a close, enormous tumultuous pie battle, the hallmark scene from a classic Three Stooges comedy. Curly, worn out, I decided to take a seat and waited out. Perched on the edge of director Jules White's desk, imaging device. Just a short while afterward, the AV director raised their voice to communicate it has come to the Stooges moment to seize settings for the action. Little Mo and Big Larry stepped foot on the set, but Curly refrained from move. Mo hurried to find out what had happened. He was discovered a slumped over little brother in the seat. Subsequently, Mo mentioned the terrible time. Curly's father sat down on his chest, his jaw was twisted, and he couldn't possibly express yourself. His only option was to weep. Mr. Curly had a devastating stroke on location. Just a small public service announcement. Staff and actors wear took note of the events. During Curly's Timmy on the way to the emergency room, Jules White altered the screenplay in a flash. The pie fight continued as the grand finale. In his absence, if you happen to catch that last Mo and Larry will be on display today. Tripping over the debris. But Curly is noticeably absent. He plays completely disappeared. The amusing apparatus continued operating, but the crucial component had simply crumbled into pieces. The accident called it quits. That was the last time he ever functioned as a designated representative of the trio of scoundrels. Whoever had created the was now ensnared in a realm where laughter roared in an agonizing stillness. Coming up next, how about we're calling that chilly day spent visiting the cemetery in the year 1952? Here we have Larry, Mo, and SHMP. When they stand before the tomb, uttering their farewell to my brother and friend, it was a game lost. His loved ones, and the few individuals who have the good fortune to know the soft comedy's insecure protagonist. Following that, hers is the sole witness at Curly S. Howard's funeral, which was attended by nobody was hoping to observe. Marion was involved, his bride. Bucks bomb upon getting to know him for 2 weeks. The lady who has tarnished his reputation with filth during a high-profile, sensational divorce. The lady whom a magistrate had deemed a lover as she departed with half in terms of his wealth. The lady responsible for caused him to lose it, leading to his ultimate, devastating false state of health that precipitated the stroke caused him to lose his job and, eventually, life. Her divorce was followed by disappeared completely. But look at her now. Was there for the man's funeral whose life had contributed to its devastation. Think about the impact that her presence must have made Mo feel something. He had a role in bringing them together, in the hopes of rescuing his sibling. Beholding her burial site for Curly has to have been painful flashbacks of his own terrible error. As far as anyone aware in the real account, her presence was required tofelt like a rude awakening. For what reason when will she be there? From what we can gather from the past, no response. Was that a last daring deed, to prove that she was entitled to Bedhat Place? Is there even a hint awful remorse for the harm? Or was it a chillier method of creating, not to mention this last sad incident involving her? Whatever she felt, we will never understand at that particular day. Her presence at the funeral for him continues to elude explanation into the tragic tale of Curly Howard's last years. She resembled a specter from the most distressing period in his life, showing up standing over his grave for the final time. Towards the end of his life, while he was still Curly was formerly bereft of the ability to communicate spoke to a friend. I suppose I'll never be called elicit another round of giggles from the kids that I in that regard. He was mistaken. Many years of individuals of all ages continue to roar with delight in his brilliance. Nevertheless, the individual Jerome Horwitz, was never able to discover plain joy he brought to a great number of different people. He dedicated his entire life to finding affection and tolerance, but frequently discovered heartache and exploitation instead. The startling look of that one unannounced visitor at his burial was a last silent proclamation to the individual agony he felt, a solemn recollection of the most crushing cost he endured in order to bring joy to everyone.